Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
This is the nature of war. By protecting others, you save yourselves. If you only think of yourself, you'll only destroy yourself.
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. This is the way. It's Sunday, and I'm Branden.
And I'm Lewis.
And we are here to talk about movies. Each week, Lewis and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. Today, I picked the film from 1954, Seven Samurai, directed by Akira Kurosawa, starring Toshiro Mifune and Takashi Shimura. But before we discuss the film, we'd like to thank everyone who's been listening. This is a congregation, not just, a discussion between me and Lewis. So if you've just watched Seven Samurai and are now listening to this podcast as like an after show, we'd love to hear what you think about this movie. You can find us on all the social medias at Film Church Radio. You can leave us a comment. And yeah, let us know what you think of the film. We'd love to know.
Yeah, cinema is best enjoyed together. So let us know. We want you all to be a part of this as well.
Absolutely. So before we get into the movie, we like to do our little quick reviews where we just kind of talk about what we've been watching this week. And Father Lewis.
Yes, Father Branden.
What have you been watching?
So we a few things, honestly. I mean, we started off the Kingsman came up on streaming on Hulu this week.
I think it was Was it Hulu?
I think it was both.
Oh, okay.
Did you watch it on HBO?
I feel like I did, but
I watched it on Hulu, so maybe
I was actually at somebody else's house, and they
Nice.
were controlling the remote, so...
Remote
Actually,
controllers.
it could have been anything.
Yeah.
One of the H's.
Yeah. And me and my wife both quite enjoyed the last two Kingsman movies. So we watched that. So as you have seen it, we can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I've seen parts of the first two, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't even really... I don't even know if I watched... So it's just there's two, and this is the first, or this is the third, but it's a prequel.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah, the second one, I think it was on when I was working at Studio Movie Grill, so I saw parts of it lots of times.
Yeah, Elton John's in it.
Yeah, I remember that, and yeah, it was. I mean, they just seem like fun action movies, and the way the action is done is like lots of wide angles where usually action is just cutting, but this the way they do these movies is it's a lot of choreography, a lot of one shots that just stay with the action. You get to really see what's going on. It's a little more fun.
Yeah. It's the same director as Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay.
So it's like stylized action, I guess. Takes a lot of...
I loved the first Kick-Ass movie. I didn't see the second one, but...
Yeah, it takes a lot of cues from Matrix and stuff like that with slow motion, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
The first two are fun to watch. I want to put that in right now. This did not do it for me at all.
This movie was all over the place.
Dude, I felt like the first hour and a half was super boring. I didn't know what the point of it was.
Yeah, and it was very just here's a historical film about...
Yeah. Rasputin, it's gonna, it could go down as one of my least favorite performances ever.
Yeah, so the whole time the movie was going on, I was like, who is this guy? He looks familiar, but I didn't feel like looking him up.
Yeah.
But that's the lizard.
Yeah, Reese Ifans.
Yeah, that whole scene. Now, I will say, okay, it kind of reminded me a little bit of John Waters in a way where it's just it tried to just like freak you out with
Yeah.
like homoerotica or whatever, like freak out people that are just like homophobic or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that part of it made me laugh, but like in context with the rest of the movie,
Yeah, it's
it's like what.
Yeah.
What it's like like you said, it's like boring, slow, and then it's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, here's a supposed to be super sad scene, but it's like, I'm not taking this movie seriously.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make me cry?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the time with this film, it was like the whole point of it, right, was to get to the Kingsman, to like, this is how this organization came to be.
Yeah.
And they just forgot that was the point until the last minute of the film when it was like, oh, we've created the Kingsman. It was like, where has this come from?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. Yeah, I did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
At all.
Not one bit.
No.
But you finished it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember, like, what made the other two so fun, I think, Taron Egerton is great.
Yeah.
As the lead, Eggsy. But I don't, it's cool, it's stylish, you know.
Yeah.
This one is not.
Yeah, like there was a certain point in this movie I was like, what's going on here? Like, where's like the things that I had recognized from the pieces of the film, the other films that I had watched, which were like the fun actiony stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, like an hour into the movie, I was like, what's going on? Like, there's nothing happening in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they like have this weird thing with Rasputin, and then there's some action, but it's like
the last half hour was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it was all right. But it was like they were trying to make you take it serious, and then it just had no sense of what it was, I think. Yeah,
for sure. And, I mean, I just feel sorry for the goats that were involved in this film because they got treated like crap.
Well, I mean, they weren't real, but
yeah. Especially when he jumped on its head to try and get up the mountain. I mean,
it was a lot ridiculous, I guess. But I guess that was the point. We've talked way too much about the king apostrophe S man.
Yeah, the king's man.
But
yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to better things. I feel like we should just cut that part out of the show. It was a terrible movie.
Yeah,
some of you have probably watched it. You should let us know what you thought. If you had fun watching it, let us know.
I know my mum went to see it and she enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah, and we talked to them over the weekend, and I purposefully did not tell them that I had seen it because I did not want to be like, I did not like it. So I'm sorry,
now
Mum.
She's listening.
I know, yeah. I'm sorry. I did not enjoy it.
Yeah, somebody was Googling the movie after we watched it, and that one of the like Google questions that came up was, "Is The King's Man a true story?"
Oh, God. I mean, yeah. Okay.
I am curious though, as like an Englishman is like, I don't know.
Chelsea said the same thing to me when we were watching.
Is it offensive?
It's not offensive, but she was like, especially with all the, the maids and like the standing to attention and stuff when people walked in, she was like, "Are you used to this kind of stuff?" And I was like, "No." Like, even in England, this is like few and far between. Like, I knew
it's a movie that takes
well
place
off.
100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I knew people that were well off. There's everyone drinks tea all the time, but apart from that, that's pretty much where the similarities end.
Yeah. Well, good to know.
Yeah.
I was like, I might not visit England after watching this.
Yeah, don't let this film be a portrayal of England. It's much better.
What else? What else have you been watching?
I watched... Okay, my daughter's getting to this age now where we can kind of start putting on TV shows and films that we watched as kids. And she kind of got it. So we watched the Rugrats movie.
Yeah, did you see that in cinemas when it came out?
I'm pretty sure I must have done.
Yeah, I definitely went. Yeah, I think I went with my family and my cousins, but I don't remember that much about it other than
No.
the one girl trying to find her doll or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
There's some memories in there.
yeah, I mean, Nickelodeon cartoons are always pretty grotesque in a way. Like
Going back and watching it as an adult, you're like,
there's a lot
this
of
is
stuff
a
in there,
kid's movie?
that, it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit creepy, I guess.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff in there. But my daughter loved it, and it's Rugrats, so there's not much to say on a critical level, but, yeah. So we watched that, and she had a good time. So that's all that matters. And then I'm trying to make my way through. I'm a big reader of Sight and Sound, the English film magazine, and they did their top 50 of the year in the last issue. So I've been catching up with that. So I watched Petite Maman, which is by the same director as Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of shot. I think it was shot during lockdown. It was really small cast. But it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, this young girl, I think she's 7 or 8, her grandmother passes away and they go to her house to clear it out. And she's playing in the woods and she meets another young girl. And it kind of you start to think, is this her mother as a kid? It's really trippy.
Yeah.
But it's so sweet and it works so well. And it's like an hour and 20 minutes. So it's really short. I had a really good time with it. Thought it was really sweet. Yeah.
So Sight and Sound, they do top 50 of the year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. So this was number 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's up there.
Yeah.
What was number 1?
Souvenir Part 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to knock them all out. But there's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of movies. That's a lot of movies. I don't even know if I watch that many movies.
Like new release movies.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a little bit all over the place because it kind of it doesn't go by necessarily British, release dates. It goes by films that were released worldwide.
Okay.
So, Souvenir Part 2, I know, came out in England 3 weeks ago. So it's technically released in 2022. But they included it in 2021 because that's where it had its
premiere and
all the run in the the can and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit all over the place, but I mean it is a good list to kind of revolve around. I mean Titan's on there, and loads of other stuff. So just trying to get through the ones that sound most interesting off that list.
Yeah. Cool.
What have you been watching, dude?
Well, besides The King's Man, we watched The Eyes of Tammy Faye the other day.
Nice, okay.
Which was on HBO?
I think so. Yeah.
HBO Max. Yeah, I mean I'm trying to get through the Oscar movies.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe I shouldn't talk about it too much because we're gonna do a
Oscar special.
Yeah, we're gonna do an Oscar special, and Jessica Chastain is nominated for Best Actress for this movie.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. But yeah, I'll talk about it more when we do our Oscar special. So if people are listening to this and you want to hear about what we think about the Oscars movies, go listen to that episode coming soon.
Yeah, I do want to see it. I mean, it's streaming, so hopefully I'll get a chance to watch it before the Oscars. I mean,
yeah. With a lot of these movies, this is all I'll say. With a lot of these movies, with this one, I watch it and I'm like, okay, so why is this in this category?
Yeah.
But not in this other category.
Okay.
I don't get it. And why are these movies in this category?
Yeah. I'm sure it's politics.
I guess.
I don't know.
It's just a weird year.
Yeah. That's for sure. But we'll get into that on the special.
That's right.
Because I have a lot I want to say. Okay.
So, we're here to talk about Seven Samurai, ladies and gentlemen.
We sure
1954. It is available on HBO Max if you want to go watch it, which we recommend always before listening to this episode because we're going to spoil it.
That's right. From the very beginning.
Everyone dies. Not really. Well, lots of people die, but
Yeah, not everyone.
So IMDb summarizes this movie as a poor village under attack by bandits recruit 7 unemployed samurai to help them defend themselves.
Yes.
Now, okay, I did not realize, like, we talked about this a little bit on the last episode.
Yeah.
About just what we've heard about this movie. Because this movie is, like, legendary.
It sure is, yeah.
Akira Kurosawa is legendary as a director. He's been super influential in cinema and cinema history. We both have seen some of his movies. I mean, I've seen Rashomon. That's the only other movie besides this that I've seen before I watched this. I don't know about you. I know you've seen Rashomon. Have you seen anything else that he's directed?
Yeah, funnily enough, earlier this year, when I was struck down with COVID, I watched High and Low, which is kind of one of his... It's. I don't want to say Hitchcock. I don't want to keep bringing everything back to Hitchcock, but it's like a Hitchcockian thriller set in like modern time, and basically this inventor. He's not really an inventor. He's like the head of a company. Is kind of finally just about to make it big, like get his big payday, and then a boy gets kidnapped, and at first they think it's his son, but it turns out to be his driver's son, and it's like one of the. It starts off as like a very, like character driven, like you'd pay the money to save your own son, but when it's not yours, like would you give up your entire fortune and future to save somebody else's child?
Yeah,
and then it eventually turns into a bit of a like detective story where they're trying to find the person that can, and it's really good. I mean, it is it's a long film. It's like 3 hours, I think, but it is really entertaining and well made.
Yeah.
So,
and that's 1963 that came out.
Yes.
Seven Samurai came out in 1954. And Rashomon was a few years before that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, basically this movie wasn't exactly what I expected. I mean, just reading the summary there and when the movie started, you understand what the plot is going to be right away.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was the exact plot of The Magnificent Seven, which obviously they stole it from this movie.
Yeah.
And so many other movies, this plot exists.
Yeah.
So going into the movie, I felt like I already knew what the movie was going to be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was like, okay.
Once that premise kind of settled in, you were like, okay, I know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. So not to say that it ruined the movie or anything, but yeah, it wasn't exactly able to watch it with fresh eyes, you know
and
what
that's
I mean?
the problem, especially with a film that's this well-known, this drawn from. It's hard to watch it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Because I did, like, The Magnificent Seven was something that kept coming up into my brain again and again. Was just that, the Hollywood remake that everyone pretty much knows.
Everybody knows The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Not everybody, at least American audiences might know, unless you're a big film buff, might not know Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess it's interesting. Like, this movie is a great movie. Let me just say that. But it's interesting, like, thinking about what I expected to see versus what I saw.
Yes.
Which there's a lot of great stuff there, but it's funny because I've heard, like, Martin Scorsese and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg talk about this film so much. I don't know what I expected. I expected some kind of gangster Star Wars Indiana Jones thing. You know what I mean? But it's like, obviously it's not.
The most epic film of all time. Yeah.
Exactly. And, upon, finishing the film. Yeah. It took me a while to like process it. Like there's a lot there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot there to enjoy for a first time viewer, but there's also a lot to I feel like to re-watch, to digest again, because there are so many characters and so many stories going on in this. Like the overall story is it's nice that it's simplistic.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's basically these farmers are being attacked every year by these bandits. They get fed up and they decide they're going to hire some samurai to help defend them, right?
Yeah.
That's the plot. But it's 3.5 hours long. So there's lots of other stuff going on, like subplots and other stories. And each character, each samurai has their own story.
Yes.
And their own backstory that's fully realized. There's no character that's just like there to be, oh, there's that guy. Like, you know, the characters that are a little more background are still fully realized. So there's so much more to digest that's like,
I know
that you kind of have to watch it more than once. And I feel like I need to watch it again and again, you know, to really like every time I watch it, I'm going to connect with a new character.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Because there was some characters that were very immediate, and other characters that I was like, at the end of the movie, I was like, I enjoyed their story a lot more than I thought I would. You know, they're the character that I kind of gravitated towards. But yeah, for 3.5 hours, and the synopsis that you read at the top is it.
Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah. Like some bandits attack, they go and find samurai to protect them. There's a battle. That is literally it. Like it's, but it never once felt like it was dragging. I kept thinking like if I was like the editor of this film, you know, especially with long films, I think there's a lot like what would I be able to cut, but still make this film like work? You know, is there any scenes that aren't needed or anything that like I was like, eh. But for this, I felt like everything that was included was necessary.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, some of the scenes in this movie are short.
Yeah.
Real short. And it's not like there's scenes that just drag on and shots that just stay for too long where you're like, oh, this is why this is so long.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's like a series of short scenes and short films. And it's like incredible that it's like 3.5 hours. Like it doesn't feel that long.
No. It takes over an hour for them to actually get all the samurai together. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes a while for it to all start to come together.
And even the fight, like the battle at the end, I was expecting it to be quicker, but it was like at least an hour.
I think what was really special about that battle was that it wasn't, you know, I know that we talked on previous episodes about, you know, Shang-Chi and stuff like that, how and other Marvel films, how it kind of culminates, and Boba Fett, right? It culminates in this huge, epic battle where they try and throw everything at you. And this was so much more strategic. Yeah. It was like, you know, they were marking off how many they had killed. And it wasn't like huge numbers, you know, these bandits that were coming in. It was so much more like the art of war as opposed to like making it look good.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the things they talked about on the commentary. I watched about an hour, a little over an hour maybe of the commentary. I wanted to watch all of it, but I just didn't have the time. Yeah. But one of the things that they were pointing out was how much that Kurosawa likes to point out the process of anything. You know, I love that. There's like the process of, you know, finding the samurai. There's the process of, you know, when they're looking at the map and they're trying to figure out how they're going to make this village defendable. Yeah. And then there's the process of actually executing the battle, you know, and marking people off and stuff. So, yeah, it is interesting. There's just so much going on. Yeah, and I love that. But it's not like there's so much going on to the point where it's you don't have any sense of what's going on. It's just that everything is still kept simplistic, like it's still digestible. Yeah, you know exactly. I mean? Yeah. And another reason I feel like I need to watch this movie a few times to really understand it is because it is subtitled. Like, I'm kind of a slow reader, so a lot of my time was spent just reading the dialogue and trying to understand what the story was, and missing some of the visuals, and some of the shots. Because as I was watching it, I was like, this is not Rashomon.
Yeah.
You know, which is the only other Kurosawa film that I've watched. And Rashomon was, like, I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, it is visually amazing. The storytelling is great. Like, some of the shots in there are incredible. Like, incredible that someone in film so long ago could come up with such modern, interesting shots. Like, you can tell why people have copied him so much. And this film, as I was watching it, like, nothing was standing out to me as visually amazing. But then after, you know, finishing it, I think it was just because I was reading so much dialogue. Because then when I was watching the commentary, you know, I was paying more attention to the visuals, and I was like, man, this is, there's lots of...
Yeah. His camera angles are really interesting. There's a lot of kind of on the floor facing upwards.
Yeah.
Especially with characters. And I wonder if that's the thing of respect. You know, because when they're in the huts together, they're all kind of like sitting around together. Yeah. So I wonder if it's... I mean, it must have been a choice to put it that level to feel like you're part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of the battle scenes, I mean, it's not choppy. Like you said, it's not like he holds it, you know, in like a medium shot. So, for example, when like Yohei dies, we get Toshiro Mifune's character kind of run over to him to try and, like, you know, get him back up on his feet again. And the arrow comes and hits in the ground behind, you know, but this is all medium shot. It's not like... we don't cut and see the archer kind of pulling the string. It's very, I don't know, it's very hands off, which I enjoy a lot. I don't like them trying to directors trying to direct my vision. I know that sounds counterintuitive because that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But I do
or like just overemphasize, like, here's exactly what is happening. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas in this, it was very much like we're part of the battle. You know, we're standing there with them. This is, we can kind of look around and see what we want to look at. Yeah. Which I enjoyed a lot.
So I know that the way that he shot, like the way that he shot some of the action scenes were some of the, like, it was the first time they had done action like this. Like, well, there's a few action things actually. The first is when Kanbei, is that how you say it?
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah. When he, you know, he's like the head samurai.
Yes.
And it's, you know, the first scene where you get to see him do something to help the village, and he shaves his head to pretend like he's a monk, and he gets this thief out of this hut.
Yeah.
And they do this slow motion thing where he's coming out of the hut in slow motion, and then they intercut with like regular speed film and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the first time anybody had ever done.
Oh, wow.
Like slow-mo action cut with like regular, like, which seems like a basic thing, but like, you know, it's 1954. It's like there were still things being realized. Yeah, exactly. You know, in the language of film. Yeah. And Kurosawa seems like someone who just, you know, naturally knew that language. The other interesting thing is he edited this film.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Himself. Like 3.5 hours. Like, so he is his own editor. And yeah, like, as far as I know, he was the only editor on this film. Wow. And then he also used multiple cameras for the action scenes just so that he could, on those takes of, you know, the takes with all them in the mud and the rain and all of that stuff, like he could intercut, you know, just cut between cameras in the action instead of having to like do a new setup every single time they need a shot. Yeah. Which I guess was the first time they had like done that.
Like multi-camera.
Like a multi-camera action scene.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. So just looking over my notes from like when I watched it the first time.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the kind of movie that it's definitely character driven.
Yeah.
Which is great, and it's gonna get better and better the more I watch it. But like watching it the first time, I know it's probably a cultural thing where the Japanese have their shaved heads, and then You know, their hair pulled back in ponytails in the back.
So you could focus on that, right? Because it was for me. The first 20 minutes, I was like,
yeah,
these haircuts are so bizarre.
Well, I thought at first that they were like supposed to be bald,
Yeah.
and they just had bad bald cap makeup.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the color of their heads is darker than their foreheads. Why?
Yeah.
But it's just because their hair is growing out.
Yeah.
And it was just bothering me so much. I was like, who did the makeup on this film?
Yeah.
But it's like 1500s,
Yeah.
you know, Japan. And, I meant to look this up. I'm sure it's like a cultural thing. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that, not so much the villages, but for the samurai, the top knot was a very, like, prestigious thing.
yeah,
So it was kind of,
like a high class thing.
yeah.
Or, just like it was the style.
It was like part of their kind of uniform in a way.
Yeah.
So the fact that the first time we see, I forget his name, Kanbei, he is shaving that off, basically to just save, just a random villager. Just kind of tells us a lot about that character. It's more the people over honor, I guess.
Yeah, because the more, like, what's the more honorable thing for a samurai to do? Keep the haircut or save these people?
And, like, as soon as I read that, after I'd watched the film, I was like, if culturally I would have known that watching it, I probably would have learned everything about that character that I learned over the next hour.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many things like that about this movie because they did do a lot of research to make it historically accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, there were apparently instances of farmers actually hiring samurai to protect them and stuff like that. Obviously, it's like dramatized, and heightened for the film. But I mean, there's a lot to learn. I mean, there's a lot that I still don't know. On first viewing, and I mean, that's the great thing about international films, right? They can teach you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's cool that they made it, as historically accurate as they could as far as the cultural stuff and everything, because, otherwise...
Yeah, it really places you in it.
Yeah.
You feel it, like, enveloped by the film, It's not, it's not Russell Crowe wearing watching Gladiator kind of, like, take you out of it. Everything looks super authentic. You feel like you are watching this unfold in the 1600s.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the other thing that I read as well about the samurai was the fact that they are, like, leaderless, I guess. I'm not sure what the official term is. Says a lot about them. There was so much kind of unrest that these leaders of samurai troops would get killed quite often and leave these other samurai without food and, shelter and kind of... So that's why they are quote-unquote samurai, but also, like, loners.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'd only ever seen, like, armies of samurai in film, like, before.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I had to kind of get my head around, I guess.
Well, samurai are also, like, a class thing too, right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't really
not until
understand before.
Yeah. Mifune, like, has his monologue about farmers and, like, samurai made farmers as evil as they are and all that kind of stuff.
Which kind of gets to, like, the heart of the film, right? Yeah. Because it's like the struggle between... I mean, there's a civil war going on, so there's that. But then it's like, samurai are seen as, like, this higher class, but the bandits are, they call them Ronin, right?
Yeah.
And they're, like, rebellious samurai.
Yeah.
Right? So they're, like, this... Yeah, it's this. There's so much subtext there.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's the whole old versus new.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've got muskets, the bandits, and we see it instantly that's terrifying for the samurai. They're like, oh, we need to get one. Like, we need to get one. There's the elders in the camp that are very against moving. There's this whole kind of old versus new, and also, like you said, the class struggle.
Yeah.
Is lots of the farmers are terrified that these samurai are going to come to the village and basically rape and pillage them.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what they think is their right, because they're above them. Yeah, there's so much, and all these things, like I said, it's kind of, they're not drawn out either. It's very, like, I don't know, it's not trying to be overly dramatic in telling this story.
Yeah. Where it's like Rashomon was kind of that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I loved it. So yeah, it took me a while to like figure this film out, or just to take myself out of that and take myself out of all the pretext that I had about this movie and just enjoy it for what it was, and then kind of let it sit there for a little bit, and then kind of like rewatch some of the scenes, because I started watching the commentary and some of the other scenes and stuff. And yeah, there's so much good stuff. I mean, it's like the scenes with the old man when they're in the beginning, when they're like, he's kind of the wise old man of the village, and they're trying to figure out what they need to do about these bandits. And just the shots of him are so cool. And he's like, we got to hire samurai.
Yeah.
And they're like, why would samurai come fight for us? And he's like, all we have is rice. And he's like, well, then we find hungry samurai.
Yeah, I know.
It's like so simple and like brilliant, but like the shots are really cool.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene later on with the old woman of the village who, like, all her family has died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the young samurai is like trying to take rice, like he is taking his portion of rice to her, and the other samurai are trying to figure out what he's doing, and then they follow him, and they find her. You know, it's like heartbreaking.
It is. Yeah.
And it's just quick. It's like all these little scenes are like short films, like, because they kind of wrap up the story. Yeah. Like those characters' story, they're fully realized, but he wraps it up and you move on.
Exactly. I think it just gets across, you know, it's not just the one scene at the beginning of all the villagers in the circle, and there's that woman who's like pressed to the floor screaming, oh God, you know. We get these instances all the way through that just back up that the samurai are who we're supposed to be rooting for. This is like they have like destroyed these people's world for quite a while. You know, there's also the farmer who has, you know, who just wants the anger issues, for lack of a better phrase. He's super angry at them all the time. Yeah. And you find out it's because they've taken his wife. Yeah. You know, which I thought she would be dead. I thought, you know, when he like was hiding her clothes and stuff. Yeah, that I was like, okay, she's dead. Yeah. You know, that's kind of going to be the big reveal. And then when you find out that she's actually been taken and is being held, basically, is just.
Yeah, that scene where they're lighting that hut on fire. Yeah, and you see the woman, and she's the first one to wake up. Like, that whole thing was like amazing. Awesome. Yeah, like, she wakes up and you're like, oh no, she's gonna like wake everybody up, and then she's like terrified, and then she looks at she like stops being terrified, and then she looks like sinister. Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
I know. Yeah, it's so well done. Yeah, because I was like, is this what I'm supposed to be getting from this? Is she gonna let them burn? Because I didn't know, you know, you don't know who she is at that point. She could just be a wife, you know, of one of the bandits.
Or somebody they stole, like somebody else they stole, kidnapped, exactly. Or whatever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, just so masterfully done. Yeah. You know, I don't know how you'd even go about trying to get that shot. Yeah. Because it's so well done. You know, like you said, it's, again, 20 seconds. And you get all you need to know about these bandits again. Yeah. You know.
But it's, like I said, like I keep saying, there's so much there. Yeah. That, I mean, you forget most of it on the first viewing. Yeah. You know, because that story, like, it's just like the simple story. Yeah. You know, so obviously, like, there's characters that stand out. Mainly Kikichuyo.
That's how I would say it, Kikichuyo.
Yeah. So mainly Kikichuyo, the Toshiro Mifune character. I mean, he's obviously like the one that's kind of stands out the most. Like, he's his screen presence is known every scene that he's in. You know what I mean? Like he even if he's in the background, he's just like jumping up and down, like, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And you know, it's like for a movie like this, that's just like, we hired this group of samurai to stop, protect our village and save these bandits. It's like, of course you have a character like that, right? It's like obviously people copied it from this movie, and like that's why it's so prominent.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that this movie is the one that does it right when you think about it, because it's like all those other movies that have like, here's the goofy, crazy character.
Yeah.
It's like in this movie, he's so much more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's got the scene that we already talked about where he is talking about, basically talking about the farmers not really being,
How you can't trust them.
like, that you can't trust them, not really being this innocent group of villagers that just need our help.
Yeah.
They've murdered our kind.
Yeah.
They've murdered samurai. They've, whatever. And then, but then like turning it around and being like, but we're the ones who did this to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably one of the, that, like, to me, that scene is the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even his, like, the picture on the Criterion cover is him, right? Is that...
Like, yeah.
Is from that scene.
Yeah.
And then you have the scene where the hut's burning and he pulls this kid out. And his parents... Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
No. That's the villager's hut,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm starting to remember the scene now.
It's like
It's
the
like the
mill.
village. Yeah, because there was that whole... I forgot about that. That whole scene with the lady and the baby trying to go back to save... I was like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah,
Stop.
I know.
But yeah, then they die and he grabs the kid and he's like screaming like, this kid is me. Like, so you basically understand his whole story at that point. I can't think of another movie similar to this. It's been a while since I've seen Magnificent Seven, and there's tons of other movies like this. I was listening to a BBC podcast on the way over here where they were talking about this movie.
Yeah.
And they mentioned A Bug's Life.
Yeah. It is the same. It's the story.
Same plot. Yeah. But yeah, I can't think of. Like I said, I haven't watched these movies in a while.
Yeah.
But,
No.
I'm sure, like, this character is deep. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, all these characters are fully realized and they have full backstories. And
I think it's just a great, especially his character, is just such a great comment on trauma. You can see, especially with when he's holding the baby, he's like, this is me, or this was me, I should say. That he's obviously been through something traumatic. And the fact that he gets on with the children of the village better than the adults.
yeah.
He's very kind of, I don't know, stuck as a child, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, everything. He pokes fun at people and like makes silly jokes, and all the way through he's very temperamental.
Yeah.
He's the child of the group, but his arc is incredible. I love that, he goes off into the forest to get like a gun.
Yeah.
And when they say like, hey, you shouldn't go looking for a reward. And then his story ends with him not looking for reward but saving the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just again, it's just masterfully done. You don't ever feel at any point, when I was watching that with the musket and stuff, I wasn't like, okay, he's going to end up saving them all by dying.
Yeah.
So it did come as a genuine shock.
Yeah.
So I feel now that kind of stuff, the foreshadowing of what's going to come is so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
That you're just like, okay, enough. Like, I get what's going to happen now. Whereas for this, I never, like, everyone, you've genuinely fear for everybody's safety.
Yeah.
You never feel like they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
It
is crazy. Yeah, I was going back and watching just clips of the movie. A lot of the main samurai that die, like, it's within the last couple minutes of the movie. And it's like, this is 3.5 hours long, and
Yeah.
it's like at the last few minutes, it's like, is
Yeah.
when they go. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it's just like it takes. I almost feel like I need another hour just to sit and think about this movie after watching it for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, for real. I mean,
But
I think that, when it starts off, you start to, like, Kanbei is the character that I kind of like the most. He was like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the story, the wise old master. But then as it went on, Kyuzo, who was like the strong, silent samurai that did go off and find the musket, like, and came back, and he kind of didn't throw the young samurai to the walls
under
and
the
stuff.
bus.
Yeah, his character was the one that really stood out.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what I was
loved
actually
everything
about to
about
say.
it.
I was like watching it a second time. I think that character I would be like paying more attention to, because it is a movie where you're not really sure where it's going exactly, or like where these characters are fitting in yet. And so when you finish it, you want to go back and kind of watch their story again, like watch that arc again and how it flows. So like that's one that you kind of want to watch again, right? Because like the first scene you see him in, he's in a duel.
Yeah.
And it's a very like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader kind of duel.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of, it's not super actiony or whatever, but it's more about the wisdom of the scene. You know what I mean? Like
he knows to stand back and kind of when to watch and when to take action, and I loved his character. Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah.
The young samurai as well, I thought he would be pretty annoying. Kind of following around and always wanting to be, in battle. I thought that would. Yeah. But I really enjoyed his story. The girl who's a villager, and just like his battle between like her and being a samurai and kind of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting too.
I did like his and her scenes a lot just because visually it was so different. Yeah. Because they're like out in the woods and there's like all these flowers and stuff. So like, visually all the mise en scène of the scene, and it was very Disney to me. A little bit. Yeah. It was like you think of like Bambi rolling around in the the flowers. If it wasn't black and white, it probably would have been not as good. Yeah. Yeah. Those scenes, just because it would have been way too colorful for the tone of the movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just I guess the lighting, like that creek they keep coming by, like I love those shots. Yeah. Because they show that a few different times. Yeah. There's like they basically show there maybe even be an arc there that I'm not even thinking about yet, like where they're showing that shot of the creek in happier times, and then there's the part where it's raining and like all the Ronin and the horses are like going through it and stuff. But yeah, like just visually all this stuff in the woods was cool. Yeah, I mean it is. I don't know how it really contained it to just 3.5 hours. I mean, I texted you about it the other day, and I said that I've been pretty vocal about my enjoyment of shorter films in terms of just being able to put it on. But this is like as we've said, it justifies it. It never feels like it's too long. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah, and I would happily like put it on right now. It's one of those that the runtime doesn't matter because the story and what's actually in there is so good that you just want to be with those characters. Yeah. You want to be in this story because it's just so entertainingly told. Yeah. So after watching it, like just thinking about like all the stuff we've talked about, what are some of the things that you see, like knowing that it's so influential, right? Yeah. What are some of the things that you see, like, because obviously it's not the Indiana Jones Star Wars gangster film. Yeah. But, this is influenced how these other filmmakers have told their stories, Yeah. Like, what are some of the things you see crossing over? I mean, a lot of the character development I see kind of
as part of it is, especially for Star Wars. I mean, you see, quite a lot of the characters, like Kanbei is obviously Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Kikuchiyo, probably butchered that again, is, reminding me a lot of Han Solo.
Uh-huh.
He's kind of, his own man, but he also shows up when he needs to. Even the girl in the camp is very Princess Leia. Like there's the point where she's kind of like, come on, like, kiss me already. Like, be a man, do it.
Yeah.
Which was very Princess Leia and kind of, I don't need saving. You're a little short to be a stormtrooper. And I think a lot of the, just that, the evil part of it is not, especially in the original Star Wars, it's just Vader, right? Like, he's got stormtroopers, which is like scary, but he is terrifying.
Yeah.
And for this, it's more like the threat than it is any one particular person. The Empire, and now it's just the bandits. It's that whole. I mean, it's a lot of like storytelling tropes that are pretty old, but I can see a lot that he's drawn from for here, and I'm sure there's a lot of like camera shots that he did that were very similar, and stuff like that.
And I guess just like the kind of maybe the universality of it.
Yeah.
Is like,
because once you get away from the samurai stuff, it's just war. It's like it's a very relatable tale. Yeah,
it's a tale about just these peaceful villagers that just want to keep living in peace and not be threatened by this evil.
And how brute strength isn't always the answer.
Yeah.
You need strategy. You need
wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. You need
wise samurai.
Yeah,
and,
You need like, it's not old versus new. Like, in the end, it works because they all work together.
Yeah.
The wisdom, but also the firepower that they've got and the aggression and stuff like that. So,
the real obvious thing was the wipes. The wipes in the like transition wipes is like, okay, George obviously was like taking that.
He loves his wipes.
Yeah. One of the things they were saying in the commentary was that in the Japanese language, sometimes you read right to left, sometimes you read left to right, so he would use both.
Oh, okay.
Which
That's
is
interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I know that this film was hugely popular. Like, Kurosawa as a director was probably more popular outside of Japan. I mean, not more popular, but more highly regarded outside of Japan than he was in his own country.
Yeah.
And the films like this play a huge impact of it. And if you think what Lucas made Star Wars in 1977, like, this was what, 54?
Yeah, 54.
Yeah, so like, it's part of his cultural landscape. Star Wars is part of ours. This film is hugely popular in America. So it's hard not to, be influenced by this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Scorsese loves it as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that new generation, this is the time, this is kind of the watershed moment where foreign cinema was breaking in a little bit. We got rid of not to go into too much, but we got rid of the whole studio-owned theatres. So cinemas had more option to show a wider range of films. And that happened in the 50s and 60s. So films like this were being more widely available for those filmmakers.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of like linear stuff, but what I'm trying to say is that you can see that this obviously was like a turning point.
Yeah.
In American cinema.
Yeah.
Is these films being widely available and people like Lucas, people like Scorsese seeing them, studying them, imitating them.
Yeah. I feel like, like each one of those filmmakers that we've been talking about, and I mean, there's obviously more than them.
Yeah.
Like, those are just like probably the most famous, but like each one of them took pieces of Kurosawa and put them in their films, like George Lucas taking the transitions and the characters development, and like Scorsese taking the shots, and Spielberg taking the shots, and some of the character stuff, and like they do their own
Yeah.
thing with it. But man, I feel like I need to see all of his films now because like Rashomon and Seven Samurai were both so good but so different.
Yeah.
Like because like upon first finishing Seven Samurai, I would have told you Rashomon was better.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to watch them both again. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the sign of like a master, an auteur. Is like I feel that the same way with Chaplin. I feel the same way with Hitchcock. I feel the same way with other Billy Wilder, for example. Like when I finish watching one of his films, I'm like, I want to watch another.
Yeah.
I want to see this kind of progression. I want to see what else he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was exactly the same way. Adding a lot of his other films are on Criterion to my want list. Ready to put them in my basket. So
he must have a lot on Criterion.
I think there's 8 or 9.
Okay,
I think there's quite a few.
He did like 30 films total or something.
Yeah. There's a few that haven't quite got the Blu-ray upgrade yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few on there. So
they don't have like a box set yet.
Not yet. I'm
sure they'll do one at
some
point.
I mean they've done what, Bergman, Varda, Fellini. I think there's a lot of people that are speculating that the next one's going to be coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
So that would be beautiful.
That would be dope.
Yeah. It's just so good to see a director, I don't know, be worthy of the accolade.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that worry of when you watch a film that is so highly regarded that it just won't work for you.
Yeah.
And there's been other films that I've watched that Scorsese especially has like loved and like talked about a lot, and I've been very lukewarm on it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a bummer because you want to like what your hero's like.
Yeah.
But for this, I just feel like the accolades it's received have not been enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was still like surprised at how good it was, even though people kept telling me how great it is.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like one of those movies that just like you get it, you kind of get it right away, right? Yeah. But it's like so. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like
so many layers.
There's so many layers.
Yeah,
and it's such an instant classic, right? When you watch it, that you're like. You get it, but you also don't get it because there's so many more things to dive into in this movie. Like there's so many, like you said, layers that I don't get yet.
Yeah.
It's like you get it, but you don't get it. You know what I mean? Just because there's so much to digest.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, as soon as I read the booklet and the Criterion, that was like 3 more layers that had been added onto it just with the history of the samurai, the history of like Japanese cinema at this time. Just little essays that they put in the booklet.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too, right? Is like the samurai film.
Yeah, is its whole genre.
Yeah, what that is. Like you could say that to people that don't even watch movies. You could say, "Have you ever seen a samurai film?" And they could say no, but they know what that is. You know what I mean? This was the first of, I guess, like the westernization of the samurai film. Not really westernization because it's still in Japan in the 1500s. Yeah. But it, like you said, it was super popular in America. Yeah. And then it became this whole genre of film, the samurai film, right? Yeah. In America. Mm-hmm. Or in Hollywood, I guess. Yeah. Which is like, not to be like, it's got to be in America before it's important or whatever. Yeah. But because they had done a few like samurai type films, but this was like the first worldwide successful samurai movie that turned it into a genre, right?
Yeah.
So there's that whole thing, which is just incredible. And yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, it's very historically accurate and set. Like Kurosawa wanted to, like, he knew he wanted to make a samurai film. He just didn't know what the story was. Yeah. He had to dive into history to kind of find what it was he wanted to do, because apparently this film had a lot of different ways that they were going to go with it.
Yeah.
Like at first it was going to be about just the life of a samurai.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was going to be about the life of several different samurai. And then when they started diving into this time period and era of the Civil War and the things that were going on with the villagers, and once he figured out that like villagers hired samurai, he's like, that's the perfect story right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, holy crap, it is incredible.
Like his sensibility of the language of film, like he just had it. He had this language, and that's the beautiful thing about like watching films from other countries. It doesn't matter what country you grow up in, you can watch a film from anywhere and understand the language that they're speaking. Yeah. You know what I mean? And not necessarily like the actual
words,
the words, but like the way that they're telling a story. You can pick up on so many things, the visual storytelling style. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he just had that. Like he just had it,
Yeah.
I mean, apparently he grew up. These are just like little facts that I got from like listening to the podcast, like this BBC podcast, and then watching the commentary. It was like he grew up, like his older brother worked in a movie theater, which must have been like silent film in the 1920s.
Yeah.
So he grew up like watching films in a projection booth and stuff, and like
that's cool.
Learning this language, you know what I mean? Like this universal language that we have. How does this hold up to like other Japanese films that you've watched? I know you've been watching a lot lately.
I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the films I've been watching have all been, lauded a little bit. They're all kind of films that are in the Criterion Collection or have been spoken about a lot. It's not, deep dive, I guess, yet. But this is, this is just phenomenal. Like, I can't praise it enough.
Yeah.
I think the more I watch it, the more it's going to creep up my favorite films of all time list, which I don't say lightly because there's, it's pretty set in stone, I would say, at this point. But I loved it. I just loved it. And the other Japanese films I've watched have all been really good as well. But there's just, I think it's got something to do as well with the fact that there's no, like with Hollywood, we had like the production code, and like there was a lot of stuff that they couldn't put on film or say explicitly. Whereas like, especially with like Japanese film and European film, like a lot of their stories are very like moralistic in a way. Like a lot of their characters kind of have questionable morals and do questionable things because it's a little bit slack. It's like the parameters of the story they can tell are a little bit loose. And I love those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like the thing that is, interesting, but also kind of boring about like American film history is that the progression is so slow. It's like you go and watch Rashomon or you go and watch this movie and you're like, there's the modern film right there. Yeah. Where it's like you don't really get the modern film in America until like the 70s, right? Yeah. It's like what's the movie Blazing Saddles where it's like the first fart.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
The first fart in a film.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not the first fart in a film. It's the first fart in an American film. Yeah. But like, go watch some other stuff from other countries, and you'll see things that like
exactly.
They've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, like Psycho, first toilet flush on camera.
Yeah, 1960.
Like 1960. Yeah, it's insane. And I think that that's why I do gravitate towards film noir for Hollywood, is because that. I feel like that was the people that were trying to break free, but still do it in a way that was like past the censors.
Right.
There was a lot of like, sex and violence and questionable characters and stuff like that, but they always had to die at the end. Whereas in, foreign cinema, they don't all the time. They can tell a realistic story, I guess. I mean, a lot of there was a director called Kenji Mizoguchi, and there's a whole Criterion like set of his films that are just called The Fallen Woman, because he directed a lot of films about women that either fell into like prostitution or hard times, just due to the time that they lived in, and they're super interesting. You know, there's a really good one in the set that just tell about the woman that just kind of, like I said, falls into prostitution and just starts to lose everything, you know, and before you know it, she's not recognizable anymore. And they're the kind of films that I find really interesting. Yeah. Especially about like Japanese cinema. Yeah. And the more, you know, Hollywood's great, and there's like the bigger, larger than life personas, and, you know, there's all these great stories that came out of it. But there's also a lot that they couldn't tell. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Was there anything else in Seven Samurai that like really stood out to you, either visually or like character wise, that we like haven't touched on? I really like the villagers. I really enjoyed the fact that, you know, I like the scenes of them working together. You really got that sense of like this was their life, you know, the lived in kind of stuff. And some of those characters too, it's like you've got Seven Samurai to kind of dive in and fully realize their characters and backstory. But then you also have the villagers, which also have this deep like characterization too. Like they weren't just like, oh, these are the poor villagers. Like they were their own people. You know, you felt like their individuality was there. You know, they weren't just one of the other villagers. You know what I mean?
And the scene that sits with me the most is, you touched on it earlier, but the old lady in the village where they capture the bandit, and the samurai are like, don't kill her, like don't kill him, like we need to, like we're not that kind of people. And then she kind of walks in and she's like,
she walks in with a pitchfork,
and she's like, we're gonna kill him,
or a hoe or something.
And because she's,
and they're like, let her do it.
Exactly, because of her age they have to respect it and kind of let it happen.
And like all her family is dead. Like they need, like this is her. Like earlier in her earlier scene, she even says like, "I just want to be dead. I'm just waiting to be dead." That
line, like, took me by surprise. Like oh God, you know, like we said earlier, it's just it's such a masterful way of telling the hardship. But not hitting you over the head with it. You know, we get these snapshots of different, it's not just one person being like, oh, my poor village. You know, it's all the people that are like, this has affected us for years and it needs to stop. It's great.
It's amazing.
I'm
surprised that like I had this much to say about the movie, because like I said, like when I finished, I watched it in 2 sittings, right? I watched it past the intermission, and I stopped it when the attack was happening. When the bandits come over, you first see them over the hill. I'm like, okay, here we go.
An hour and 40 minutes
stop
left.
It. Well, I think it was like an hour left. But because I think the intermission is like, it's 3.5 hours, right? So I think the intermission is like right at an hour and 45.
It is, it's pretty much right in the middle of the film.
And I can't remember what the scenes are because I stopped it later. Where it stops. But where was I going with that? Yeah, I just like when the movie was over, like I watched the last hour yesterday. And when it was over, I mean, I felt like I had some things to say, but then, you know, we were talking about recording yesterday and I was just like, I don't know. I just needed more. I needed it to process a little more. And even today, I was like, I mean, it's there's so much, like we've been saying, there's so much there to digest and so much relevance to current film history. I was like, I need to become an expert on this film before I do this podcast. No, exactly. But like, you know, obviously,
I think that's the thing, because even the summaries we said at the top is so simple. The story is so simple. The characters are very kind of simple in a way. Like you get what these characters are about. That it's hard to, I don't know, shed any new light on it. It's hard to be critical and kind of like bring out the nuances of it. But I mean, there's just so much that you don't get until you talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like until you start having a conversation.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody listening really enjoyed this film, and if you didn't, we'd love to talk to you about it. Like, let's have a discussion.
Yeah.
Hit us up.
Please.
I feel like we should start a forum or something at some
Yeah,
point, maybe.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right.
Yeah.
We said it here.
Yeah. It's recorded forever now. Everyone's going to know that we said it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more we could keep talking about this movie. I mean,
Yeah.
is there anything else you feel like? I mean, I put some of the trivia on here, but honestly, I just started putting a few things I thought were interesting and then realized the list was endless and was like, all right, well, I'm not going to go through this all day. So, I can't wait to watch it again and just see what character I gravitate towards next. Yeah. But I mean, I think, so like we said, this movie is on HBO Max. I think there's other Kurosawa films on HBO Max if you want to check them out. I'm definitely going to. But, yeah, I mean, the master. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like you hear about, I mean, like we said, like, I feel like for our generation, I mean, we're in our 30s, we look to, like, the Lucas and the Spielberg and the Scorseses and like those guys a lot. Yeah. I mean, also some of the other younger ones like the Tarantinos and the Kevin Smiths and not to just only bring up men here, but I mean, I think that's more Hollywood's problem than our problem. Yeah, honestly, they conditioned us. Sorry. Yeah, we're breaking out though. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, the point was like we looked at these guys, and then these guys are like, well, we look to these other guys, right? And for us, when we start to look to these other guys, like sometimes we're like, But this is one director where I'm like, all right, I really need to watch all of his movies. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, 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 for sure. So amazing. Yeah. I'm so glad you picked it because I don't know when I would have gotten around to it. Yeah, me either. Because it's like one of those movies, right, where it's like, you haven't watched that yet? Yeah, you see 3.5 hours again, like we said, and you're kind of like, you're like, when am I going to commit to this? Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's the best thing about this podcast so far. Agreed. It's forcing us to watch these movies. Yeah. That just gives us a better understanding of film history, right? It's like we act like it's a chore. We're like, I finally have to watch this movie. I've got to be inspired for the next 3.5 hours. So that was Seven Samurai. Yeah. 1954. Amazing. I feel like we're going to bring this movie up a lot. Oh, 100%. I mean, we've already been. The interesting thing is like, this is what, episode 13. Yeah. 13 Samurai. This is episode 13, and we've been talking, like all the films that we've been watching together, we keep referencing as we go. Yeah. So like I can't wait for like our film language and knowledge to just like keep growing and like keep referencing these movies. We'll see what happens with our movie next week. Yeah. How long we'll be referencing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are we watching? Your pick. Yeah. So this is a film that I watched when it came out in 2019. Okay. It was, again, on the Sight and Sound list of top films of that year. And I enjoyed it to a point. I thought it was fine. It was good. But I have not wanted to revisit a film more than this. Okay. For a long time. So the film we're going to be watching is The Souvenir. Sweet. Part 1. Because there's a part 2 now. Which is also, you said, was on the... Yeah, which won 2021. So that came out last year. One. Yeah. So that came out last year. I asked you that and you told me. This came out 2019. I forgot. This came out 2019. Directed by Joanna Hogg, an English director. And yeah, we can talk about it next. What else? Has she done anything I would have seen? So there's been a lot of
like smaller English films. I mean, I've only really seen The Souvenir. I haven't seen much of her other work. Honestly.
Yeah.
But this is kind of this is critically acclaimed for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's got Tilda Swinton in it, and then also Tilda Swinton's daughter, who plays the main character, Julie, Hannah Swinton Byrne, who's never acted before.
Oh.
So this is like her
debut.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't recognize any of her movies, but...
And I'm looking forward to kind of getting your interpretation on it.
Okay.
So, yes.
Sweet.
Yeah, so that's that movie that we'll be watching next week, The Souvenir from 2019. So...
And then the week after that, are we just going to do part 2? Because we've got 2.
If that's what you want to do, we can do part 2.
I think we have to at this point.
Okay.
And then we will do our Oscar special, right?
Yeah, I think that takes us up to the Oscars, right?
So everybody catch up on your Oscar movies.
Yeah.
And that's coming in a couple weeks.
Excited.
I still have a lot to knock off.
Me too. I'm starting to get a little bit worried.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for another month. The Oscars.
That's right. Yeah.
But we got to record
special,
special. The Oscar special is our predictions.
Yeah.
We're going to make a list. We're going to each put our predictions down.
For every category.
And then we're going to see who wins.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the result of that will be, but you'll know who is more...
lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say more like intuitive or sensible.
I feel like with the Academy, I can just never
could be anything.
Yeah,
it's like what?
Yeah,
a lot of times. I mean, with every category, honestly, I'm like, what this year? But
yeah, and The Souvenir Part 2 is. I mean, we'll get to that in a few weeks, but it's not been nominated for anything.
Was The Souvenir nominated for a bunch of stuff?
I don't believe so. Which is surprising to see that it's so critically acclaimed. And this is kind of one of the reasons, Souvenir Part 2 has been on my watch list for a long time.
Yeah. Weird.
So, I feel like quite a lot of the times when it comes to Oscars, I'll watch a lot of the films that should have been nominated instead of actually focusing on the ones that were.
Yeah, definitely.
Just so I can be like, you don't know what good acting looks like. You haven't seen this blah, blah, blah film from Korea.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah. But
it's a weird thing.
Yeah. I feel like we're both bursting to talk about it.
I know, we're ready for this Oscar special, dude. But we'll be even more ready in a couple of weeks when we've watched every single film.
That's right, yeah. Not going to get any sleep.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of the show, everybody. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio, and you can follow us individually on Letterboxd. I am at Selman Scope, and Mr. Lewis is at Walker Lewis 3007. You can keep up with what we've been watching on Letterboxd. We have a film diary on there, so literally every film we watch, we post it and rate it. And we also have all of our back episodes streaming now. This is episode 13, so check out all the other films and become a part of this Film Church Religion podcast that we've got going on here. I mean, for us, film is our religion, and this podcast is a way for us to keep up the practice of watching films. And hopefully you can join this practice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream. That's why, I know we said it before, but that's why we started this up, so that we could talk about films have other people talk to us about films that they love.
It's been so much fun, dude.
Yeah, it's a blast.
We will see you guys next week.
We sure will. But, in the end, we lost this battle too.
What?
I mean, the victory belongs to these peasants, not to us.
As in these listeners?
Yeah, we should have thought about this before we said it.
Not the best ending quote, but you guys aren't peasants. You guys are...
Pleasants.
Pleasant.
There we go.
If you haven't watched Seven Samurai, that was the end of or the last dialogue in the movie. But
There's
we
a
love
reason
you
we said
guys.
it, yeah.
You guys are awesome.
Dear.
Until next week, say your film prayers.
Amen.
Amen.
Not again.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.